that has been that's been a huge piece for Jericho. We actually sit on Indigenous land. I mean, all of Vancouver sits on Indigenous land, but those education pieces have been so well attended, and not just by our guests at the hostel, but also by the community, because that's been a big piece, is bringing community to the hostel so they understand what we're doing, what we're about.
Hello, friends and travelers. Thanks for listening. You are riding along on the Hostel Road Trip podcast. Our mission is to spread awareness of the true hosteling experience in the Americas and share stories from the fascinating hosts who create those unique facilities. I'm your host, Jimmy Black, joined alongside co-founder of International Travelers House, Bobby Dyer. Each session, we sit down with hostel operators or travel influencers to hear about their road to success, discuss trending hostel topics, and close with tips for travelers who are seeking to have the ultimate experience when visiting each destination. You can't afford to miss this trip. Now fasten your seatbelts and let's hit the road.
All right, welcome back to the Hostel Road Trip podcast. We are honored to have some of HI's finest, HI Vancouver and Jericho operators, Rianne Charette and Fawzi Ibrahim. And it's going to be a fantastic episode because we have so much history to talk about with this episode. This is, I would think, two of the oldest HIs in Canada. Was that correct, Rianne?
That is correct.
Yes, I mean, with and so much history with the Jericho and the Summer of Love, I want to cover it all, and then we'll talk about some of the history and then leading up into today and where we're at with HI Canada. But thank you so much for joining us. And I was actually speaking with Alfie McKenzie, another HI Canada superstar, and he was speaking so highly of both of you. And when I asked Bobby after the phone call, is it going to be Rianne and Fawzi? And he was like, yes. I was like, perfect, because that's exactly who Alfie said we should be speaking with. And he speaks so highly of both of you and of these locations. He even called HI Vancouver and Jericho the flagship of HI Canada. So
that is correct. Yeah, that is
quite the statement from the conference chairman. So let's dive into it. And if you don't mind, just because I'm so fascinated with the Jericho property. Now, this is, so it was like in World War II is when it was built. Is that the origins?
Yeah, so it was built actually just a bit before that, between the First World War and the Second World War. And actually, it was a military hospital.
Military hospital, okay.
Military hospital. And so it's definitely got it's got some feelings of that within the building. We definitely have a few presences who have been there, but it's a beautiful, beautiful location. It's actually set out in Jericho Beach. It's a 5-minute walk from the beach. It's surrounded by Jericho Park. We've been full of all the cherry blossoms and everything coming to life for spring. And and we have, I think we have like 236 beds.
236. So that's a big shop right there. Yeah, so you have 236 souls per night that you know about, because after it was a World War II hospital, wasn't it a nunnery for a little while?
Actually, that's the downtown location. So I manage the two locations, and the downtown location actually was a church and convent for retired nuns.
Oh, wow. This has just got haunted house written all over it. Okay.
And then felt the presence in Jericho, not so much the downtown one.
Okay. All right. Now, and then Fawzi, are you at the Jericho spot?
I'm actually at downtown right now as well.
So you're downtown, Rianne's downtown. So, but these two run as like sister hostels, right? In the same town, kind of like same team running both of them.
That is correct.
That's right.
Yeah. So we have different front desk staff for downtown and Jericho, but the housekeeping works at both locations. Activities are both locations. So we partner up basically. We're as one team.
Oh, that's great. So 236 at Jericho, and then what does HI Downtown Vancouver hold?
So we've got 211 beds here.
Wow. And this is cool because a lot of times we speak with smaller operators, which that under 100 bed, even sometimes under 50 beds. So it is cool to hear about these different style operations that you'll run with such more volume. And I'm always, fascinated with the challenge of how do you maintain the intimacy. So how do you both kind of try to do that as far as like having 200 plus beds, not making people feel like it's an overwhelming experience or they're just a
Well, I think
number?
Yeah, I mean, I think in both locations, we have nice little pockets of areas where people can hang out together. That's not like one big, massive room. Um,
Oh, okay.
Downtown, we actually, I mean, we're very fortunate here. So, of course, we have the dining room, but then we have a lounge. We also have like smaller meeting rooms. We have a games room. And here at downtown, we actually have a rooftop patio. So,
Oh, great.
people really, really enjoy that. And as well as that, we have a main patio. So people never really feel like there's hundreds of people just kind of wandering through. There's kind of little pockets for people to, feel that sense of community and have that opportunity to talk with one another and share their stories.
Well, that's a very good point, Rhea. You bring up there with if you are running a larger shop and you're listening to this episode on how to do that well, that's a great way to tackle it with having multiple social areas that can have that intimate feel and that smaller feel and give people different options to flow through. Because if you often will find in these larger operations that they will have a space, but it is just this one big space because their
Mhm.
thoughts are we need to fit everyone, right? And I can see the method behind that, but then it's just an overwhelming big space. So that's a very good angle at how to handle that with these larger 200, 300 bed hostels. Because if you go to one of these and they don't have any social spaces, whether they're small or big, then you're not really running a hostel.
Exactly.
You're running a cattle barn at that point.
Yeah.
Check in, check out. Who are you? I don't know. Don't care. Get in, get out. So I think that's really great advice. Now, back to Jericho in my fascinations here. So after it's a military hospital gathering spirits, and you then go into the Summer of Love, where you have the infamous Battle of Jericho, which has been written about and talked about different songs. Like I'm a big fan of the band called The Band, and they have an album called that. The Jericho. So tell us a bit about what led to this Summer of Love Battle of Jericho.
I mean, it's funny because I was actually living in Vancouver. I was a child at that time, and I was living in Vancouver, and actually ended up at Jericho as like a 5 or 6 year old child
Whoa!
through the hallways because my dad was a professor out at UBC, and a bunch of his students were there, and
Oh,
so yeah, a bunch of his students were there. So, I mean, I think, it just became about the fact that there was a space that was needed, and that space was taken over. I mean, we've actually been there as High Canada for 52 years.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Because this was 1969 was the Battle of Jericho, right?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay. So, and for listeners who don't know, you can look it up more, but it's, a bunch of hippies pretty much turned it into like a commune or intentional community. And then the police went in to go get them out and roust them out, and they didn't want to go. So it created a bit of a riot. Is that correct? Would that be in saying? Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that became a big moment for Canada in 1969 with the Summer of Love, and as that was popping up all over the world, obviously, but that was a big historical moment there. So I just love the history behind it, leading up to it. It makes me want to go check it out so much, and then to hear that you still very much have that bohemian vibe going on at the hostel.
We certainly do.
Super cool. Now, so Fozzie, you handle a lot more of like the activities and social stuff, right?
I do.
So nowadays, what is going on at Jericho? Like, do you have a big seasonal change? Is it open year round, or do you shut it down in the winter?
So Jericho currently right now is closed for the winter. However, we have students there, we have rugby players, we have employees that stay at Jericho, and we still do activities over there. So in the winter, we do beer pong, we do ping pong. We just hosted a vegan market. So
Oh,
we had about 150 people come to the hostel. So that just happened 2 weeks ago, and we're going to do it again at the end of April. So there's constantly something happening at Jericho. And then in the summertime, we have so many different events happening. We do beach volleyball, we do barbecue over there, we do Indigenous led workshop, and we're going to have a big Indigenous gathering event happening in August. So that's very exciting because that's our first time we're going to be doing it. So yes, Jericho is going to be the place to be this summer.
That's awesome. So what are the standard operating months of Jericho then? That it's like open as a hostel. Is it like April to October, or what does it do?
May to it depends. So it could be May to October, November, maybe December if it's really busy, but it really depends on the season.
Okay, cool.
And then you
And
cater to just groups
anyway.
or the students there on the when you're not open to nightly guests.
Exactly. So we have the students, we have rugby players, and then the staff as well stay there.
And then we
That's
also
awesome.
have
That's a great
outside
approach.
groups. So we have Girl Guides that come in. We've been having quite a few teams this year that have been coming into play. I think this year we have baseball teams coming in as well before we open at the beginning of May.
You know, and this is just a great example for listeners out there of if you have a lot of times towns are seasonal and you have weather changes that dictate occupancies. And from personal experience as well, don't force it with your business model so much as far as if the hostel guests aren't there, they're not there. And, you know, explore different options, even if you have to shut it down. We had a location in Newport, Rhode Island, and I Monday morning quarterback myself all the time. I'm like, oh, if you just shut it down in the winter, you stubborn son of a bitch, you know, would still have it. And I've seen, including ourselves, operations go out of business because you're forcing it. You're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole in the wrong season. And there's nothing wrong with just being able to read your seasons. I'm up here on Big Bear Mountain right now, and we're in Pacific Crest Trail season, which is a lot of backpackers and going through hikers, and it's perfect to run as a hostel. But in the winter time, it's much more suited for groups during the holidays. So we do that, you know. So that's always something to take in as an example, and I think that's great when people find that niche. And a lot of times you can find yourself with some much better vacation time if you play it correctly. You know,
That is absolutely right.
yeah. So just, you know, sage wisdom from some operators that have gone through those lumps before. But it is true. I've seen a lot of places go out of business by trying to force it and trying to be open 365 days a year as a hostel, when sometimes the demand just doesn't dictate it. So good example there. Now, okay, so now that's Jericho down by the beach, has a bit of a seasonal flair, and then we go down to HI Vancouver downtown. That's open, I'm assuming, year round as a hostel.
Correct.
That is open. Yeah, it's open all year round. We're busy enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Our location, we are so centrally located here. Again, I mean, we're very fortunate. We're centrally located to downtown, but we're only 3 blocks away from the beach on the other side of the water.
Oh, oh wow.
Yeah.
You really did it. Ooh, you got some prime locations up there in Vancouver. Well done. Now, how do you do with guests intermingling between the two? Do you promote that a lot? Do you have a lot of success in that?
Well, we do for sure, because because of the weird landlord laws that we have here in BC, our guests can only stay for 21 days per season.
Whoa.
Oh, I know. Yeah. These strange
Right.
little things that come up. So our guests can only stay 21 days per season. And so often our guests, you know, they do their 21 days at downtown, they'll go to Jericho and vice versa. In the winter, it's a bit more challenging. And certainly, like when we've had some of our longer stay guests, I have moved them over to Jericho, even if we're typically closed, because we're still working. We're still open. There's still a front desk that's there, you know,
Yeah.
Monday, Friday, 9 to 5. But yeah, it's guests definitely go. And I mean, we encourage guests, to go up to Whistler as well. Of course,
Which is only a couple of hours away.
It's a couple of, and like an hour and a half by car, I think.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's really not, providing the roads are okay. And then of course, we have another smaller hostel in Penticton in the interior.
Really? What
Yeah.
is that? So how is that in the interior? Is that like in the
So it's
forest?
in it's in no, it's in Penticton, actually, in British Columbia, in kind of the center of British Columbia, what we call the interior.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like desert-like there. So you go
Oh,
from this beautiful green, lush, mountainous ocean, and then you drive to Penticton and sort of Kelowna, and it's all lakes and very, very desert-like and very, very hot in the summer and a lot more very dry snow in the winter.
yeah. Canada has so much to offer in that. We have a similar situation with our Big Bear location here, and then we have Joshua Tree just on the other side of the mountain, which is a desert, and then a couple of hours from Big Bear is the ocean. We used to, in our younger days, try to go with the let's go surfing in the morning and snowboarding in the afternoon type of thing. Yeah, and have those types of fun experiences. But yeah, how many hostels does HI Canada have now presently in
So there's
Canada?
so in Canada right now we have 26 hostels in the network.
Oh, okay. All right.
So some of those we own. That includes our wilderness hostels. Primarily, we're located in BC and in Alberta, although we do have a hostel in Halifax, um, which is on the far, far east side.
Okay. And then yeah, now Rian, you've been with the HI Canada for a while. So is that like comparatively to prior years, is that pretty much spot on to what it's always been around that range, less more?
Yeah, it's always been in and around that range. I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
we have some affiliates as well on top of that. But yeah, it's since I've been here. I mean, since I've been here, it's been in and around that for sure.
And that, it seems to me that HI Canada has weathered the storm of like the pandemic and recent trials and tribulations much better than HI USA did.
I mean, I think that we were fortunate in some
Yeah.
ways that we actually had the opportunity to lease some of our hostels out to BC Housing, for instance. Like the
Okay.
downtown hostel was leased out, and we actually had a third hostel in Vancouver at that time called Central, and they were leased out to BC Housing to house the vulnerable sector during the pandemic. And so we continue to make revenue during that time when so many others didn't have that opportunity. Their businesses just came to a complete standstill, and
Yeah.
so that was really beneficial for us.
Okay. Now, how about either of these back to these Vancouver locations? Do either of them have like bar, restaurant, food and beverage style operations going on inside?
No, I'm currently working on opening a restaurant at the Jericho location.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
there was a restaurant in there before. I'm just tied up a little bit right now with some red tape. You know how that can go.
Yeah.
Um, and at Vancouver downtown, we don't have that, but we do events here, and we do food, and we do what we call here in BC special events, and we get a
Okay.
liquor license, and so we do that once a week throughout the summer, and then or once every 2 weeks here in the summer, and once every 2 weeks at Jericho. So there's always like an event happening where there's a bar and people can get together and there's food.
And I think that in hostels in the industry right now, this is one of the most fascinating topics because we have always heard of different hostels in South America and Mexico where you tell them that, oh, we don't even have a bar or a restaurant, and then look at you like you have seven heads. Like, how are you making any money? We pay the bills with the beds, and then all of our profits are through the bar. And it used to be so frustrating for us because of all the red tape that we would deal with here in the U.S. as far as like going to the planning board and be like, I'd like a liquor license. What do you do? I'm a hostel, and all of a sudden a door slams in your face. Yeah, so it would be very frustrating. But now, an interesting thing is with the newer millennial Gen Z type of vibe is so much more into health and wellness. And we find, at least through our hostels here in California, that there is a lot less beer pong and a lot less of the drinking social games and pub crawls where we used to have those on a nightly basis to the point where I remember Bobby and I being like, we got to slip in one non-alcoholic day here, like I'm falling apart, and I joke now that these Gen Zs might have saved my career because now they don't want to drink as much, and you kind of have to force them to play beer pong or flip cup or whatever, and they want to do more wellness and adventurous type stuff, which I've found and embraced a lot. And like now up here in Big Bear, I'm spending more time trying to facilitate an in-house yoga studio than I am a bar. Yeah, because I'm like, I could really make a lot of money with this yoga studio, and it would be great for the guest experience. Are you finding the same thing?
100%, 100%. Like our activities are very much, yes, we do have in the wintertime, we do have one night of beer pong, and there is a pub crawl that you can go on. But primarily our activities have been based around spas, Grouse Mountain, city tours, Capilano, Lynn Canyon, people getting out into the country hiking. And I'm talking, these are not small tours. Some of these are 8 and 10 hours by the time you've completed your day. Yoga is another one. So that health and wellness piece, and certainly, and I mean, I'm probably similar in age to you, or maybe a little bit older, but that alcohol piece or that consumption piece is really not what the newer generation are looking for. They're looking for engaging activities,
Yes.
Things where they're making things where they're connecting.
Yep.
And
No,
so
100%.
we really put our focus on that. Very particular, like one of the big pieces for us, and it's really important around Jericho. I mean, all the lands here, but is the Indigenous education that we have been doing. That has been that's been a huge piece for Jericho. We actually sit on Indigenous land. I mean, all of Vancouver sits on Indigenous land, but those education pieces have been so well attended, and not just by our guests at the hostel, but also by the community, because that's been a big piece, is bringing community to the hostel so they understand what we're doing, what we're about.
Absolutely. This is great because Bobby was just doing this up in Santa Barbara with research about the Chumash Indians and the original settlements and the fascinating history of the missionary settlements and whatnot. And I've done the same thing up here in Big Bear with the Serrano Indians, and they're into that. They want to know more about it. They want to be educated about it, and it's so fascinating how that's flipped, because you think about 10, 15 years ago, if you're like, oh, who wants to come to a walking tour with me of the Serrano Indians? You'd be like, crickets. and like, can we just play beer pong again? Like, okay, yeah. Fine. But now it's so much different in that way. And I think we all as an industry have an amazing opportunity, not only for our own health, but for to capture this moment of this new wave of kind of enlightenment in a way, and also engagement into these things and offering what they want. And that because we have the facilities and the setup and the style to do it. It's still social immersion. It's just a different social activity. We're doing a big push this summer, as we've got our Southern California locations from San Francisco to San Diego. So I purchased a large sailboat, and we're doing hostel sailing tours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to sail up and down the coast and do sailing adventures, day sails, longer sailing, and teach them how to sail, teach them about, celestial navigation, teach them about nautical history, and create that type of adventure activity, right? That will draw them in. And then I hope it works, and then I can upgrade to like my hostel pirate ship idea, which is a floating hostel. Yeah, if that happens, no one is safe on the coast, yourselves included.
That would be cool.
Oh,
we would welcome that anytime.
Yeah. So, but that's it. I think that for all operators, that's how you can kind of keep your fire going yourself, and keep yourself engaged and keep yourself fired up to run your hostel, is to listen to your guests, adapt to them, and then, find these types of cool adventures and activities that everyone can enjoy. And I think it is important that you find stuff that you're also into, for operators listening. Like, I love yoga, so having an in-house yoga studio. You mentioned spa. That's another thing. Like having a day spa at the hostel. Who would have thunk it?
No,
But
exactly. Well,
you
we
know,
don't have one. We don't have one here, but we definitely take our guests to one
yeah,
of the local
but
spas. Yeah,
it would work. Saunas. I know like Green Tortoise has a sauna. They've had one forever. We have a hot tub here in Big Bear, but I'm trying to get like a barrel sauna and and eventually do a cold plunge or the steamer, because that's the type of thing where I genuinely think would make a person extend their stay. Is it like,
absolutely.
oh yeah, you've got a place for me to work. I can work remotely. I can stay healthy and feel good about myself on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to stay here. So that we have this opportunity out there with this digital nomad moment, and with these younger people wanting to get engaged more in wellness, where if hostels can just adapt, I think this could be a great breakthrough for us, where people start to talk about us in more of a positive light instead of all of the bad stigmas that we're used to dealing with either being like a homeless shelter or you're going to get murdered in the middle of the night or something. Yeah. So well, I think these are great options that we're all talking about to highlight at your respective locations. Now, Fozzie, you're dealing with a lot of these activities in these younger people. Any input from your end as far as what you have seen recently and what they like and what they want and how that's going at your locations?
Yeah, I think Rianne said it perfectly. A lot of guests, they do enjoy the pub crawls and the beer pong events. They absolutely do. But, like we have so many people that come from all over. A lot of our German crowd, they love going on hikes. So our hiking tours are super popular. Like when we go to the
Oh,
Grouse
cool.
Ground, yeah, with the Grouse Grind, we have like about like 15, 20 people join us. Capilano, Lynn Canyon, we have a lot of people that join us from all over, especially Germany and Australia. And so guests just really want to interact, be social with everybody, and just like have incredible experiences and see all over Vancouver, but with people that they can meet and become friends with. So it's extremely important that we keep, pushing that, because honestly,
Absolutely.
like a lot of times they do better than the pub crawls. Like pub crawls are great, but yeah, I like everyone says when they go on that walking tour, when they go on that like hike, like they love it and they want to keep going.
Yeah, it's cleaner, it's less messy, it's less liability. All of these types of things are actually, I think, a bright spot for the industry, and something that we would always learn when we were working at USA hostels and things of that nature is if the guests aren't engaging in the evening when they're all hanging around together,
Mhm.
we probably didn't do something right during the day, because that was the
Absolutely.
opportunity, right? If they all get together and go on a hike, then it's 95% chance more likely that they're all going to get together that evening and do something together.
You're 100% right, and it's so interesting because let's say they go on the grouse grind, they become friends with everyone. That they're like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? There's another tour. Do you want to go on that? And then like, oh, there's beach volleyball the next day. Let's go there as well. And the small group gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then becomes like 30 people, and they go on each different activity, and like they leave Vancouver with a huge smile on their face because they wouldn't have done these things without going to our activities.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing when you light that little flame, and then a lot of times then you don't need to do anything else and let it go on its own, like you're talking about. If you take them out on the hike and everyone meets each other, and then they want to go out later that night, and then people start to have FOMO and they want to get involved, and I don't want to miss out. And
Absolutely.
I feel like this younger crowd also is in that generation of so much screen time, so much isolation, that hostels create this awesome moment for them to actually be social, like we all remember and used to do organically and naturally. But we can provide that to them. And then as an operator, you really see that sizzling and come full circle when people start to extend their reservations,
Mhm.
because they want to go on the next tour, right? Uh, and you're going on that tour in 2 days. Okay, maybe I'll stay another few days to go on that tour. And all you did was a few days ago take them on a hike.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely. And you know
Yeah.
what? And it's interesting. So our first summer that we started doing activities was summer 2024. I had guests that say, I'm going to come back next year because I had such a great time. And they do, they come back the year after. And it's like, it's so awesome seeing returning guests like come, because it feels like, really make an impact.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too here in Vancouver is we get a lot of first time travelers. They land in Vancouver first and they're kind of making their way, over to Alberta through the Rockies, or they're coming down to the US. So like they often land here first. And it's so amazing to like see these. I mean, I will call them kids because they're kids. To me, they're all kids, right? Like that's real. They're all younger than my kids. I got 4 of my own. And it's so awesome to see them kind of come out of their shell, right? And to get away from their screens, to have those interactions, to have those conversations, to hear about perspectives, perspectives from other places in the world. It's how, it's how I started. That's how I started in hostels. I went when I was quite young, like 16, 17. I sent my own children when they were 18 years old. I made them all leave and go away for a while.
Love it.
Yeah, get out of here, come back, when you've got a bit of perspective on life. And like, I love watching that. I love watching these people who are kind of shy sitting in the corner. And then all of a sudden, they come on an activity and they make friends. And like, it's just a beautiful thing to watch.
Absolutely. If for so many of those people, it's a life-changing moment, and that fulfillment that you can get off of that, that's what keeps us going over here as well. With our mission statement of spreading peace through knowledge of culture, as we saw Bobby and myself at a young age and got exposed to that of like, wow, it can really give you that different perspective on the world when you've met someone from Iran and you have friends from the Ukraine and you actually have met them. And now a lot harder for you to get brainwashed by the nightly news or what the current gossip is, if you actually have that real genuine perspective of meeting people from those places. And it's a beautiful thing. I wanted to touch base a bit about HI and the club membership program, as this has been a topic we've been talking about over at ITH. I had an experience I want to share with you. And I know that other hostel operators have had this experience, and we're going to call this one person for purposes of this conversation, older woman named Colleen. I checked her into a 4-bed female dormitory, and I had this kind of feeling in my gut. I'm like, oh, I don't know. This doesn't seem like it's going to be a good idea, but okay, give the benefit of the doubt here. It just doesn't feel like she's here for the right reasons, or she's not going to enjoy it. And I checked her into the dorm, and then a few hours later, this younger girl, let's call her Pam, and she checks in and she says, comes in glowing after a day of snowboarding, and it's like, hey, I want to stay, or I want to go snowboarding again tomorrow morning, and instead of leaving tonight, I heard about this hostel thing, but I've never tried it out before, and I've heard some shady things, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Let me jump into this, and I'll give it a try. And I was like, oh, that's great. Just the perfect guest demographic that we would be looking for up here in Big Bear in the winter ski snowboard season, trying to get more young people to try out hostels. Mm-hmm. And then I see she's in the same 4-bed female dorm, and I'm like, oh no, Colleen.
No.
Oh no. And I'm like, Pam, it's her first time. And as I'm walking through the tour and showing around the place, I see she's lighting up and she loves all the stuff about the hostel and she's saying hi to everyone. And then I get to the door and I almost felt bad, and I'm thinking to myself, is there anywhere else I could put Pam? And I had nowhere. We were sold out, there was just no other option. And I kind of just like opened the door and let her into this crazy show that was going on in there with Colleen. And and I knew in my stomach, I was like, this is going to go horribly wrong. And within 45 minutes, Pam, lovely young gal, comes up apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm going to check out. I don't want my money back. No problem. Just, I'm just going to head home. And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Because now as she left, for myself, I'm like, not only did I lose her for life as a hostel guest, for myself and for the industry, mm-hmm. Now she's driving back home to UCLA and telling her, college roommates, don't ever stay at a hostel. Let me tell you about Colleen. And it gets to that point of, I was beating myself up so much of filtering. That was my job. I should have not checked in Colleen. At the root of I should have went with my gut. Because now what that good deed did not go unpunished, and now I've lost Pam and all of Pam's friends and all of Pam's friends for
Mm-hmm.
life. And I don't want Colleen back ever. So there's no good part in this. And I started to talk to Bobby about this. I was like, gosh, it makes you want to have that type of social club membership like an HI does, where and this is where I'm going to turn the question to you. In my theory of it, it's like, isn't that a great filtering process opportunity that 95% of the Colleens would never even go through the application process? They would
Right.
just say like, oh, screw that. I'm not signing up for your club. I don't care if it's only $5 a year, F off. And they would be like, great. Thank you, Colleen. The club membership worked, because we didn't want you to be a member. And even if you had applied, I would have denied you. How does it work with HI Canada and that membership? Is it like that to the extent that you need a membership to stay at an HI Canada, like it was at HI USA for a while, or what's it all about?
No, so you don't actually require a membership to stay here.
Okay.
But if you have a membership, and of course we sign people up when they come in if they don't have it, because they actually get a membership rate, which is 10% off our rack rate, right? So
Okay.
it encourages people to sign up. It definitely does not have a filter system in any
Not a
way, shape,
filter.
or form.
Okay.
And to be honest, we actually spend a lot of time honoring our lifetime HI Canada members. And in fact, we just did an open house here on March 1st, where I would say the demographic was what, 70 plus, Fozzie?
It's south, yeah.
And these have been our lifetime members. Now, they don't typically stay in hostels anymore, or they do. I shouldn't say they don't. They do, but they book private rooms at this point. They're not staying in the dorm rooms. But yeah, we have about like just in the Vancouver area, we have like I believe it's about 10,000 members.
That's awesome.
Just in the Vancouver area. I understand what you're saying. I mean, we have had some challenges. I've definitely encountered a few of those, but that's not how our membership system is set up at all.
And do you still do like events for the local community, those 10,000 members? Like what kind of events, or how do you connect with them and maintain that relationship?
So most of them are signed up to the newsletter so they can see what's happening. For this particular event, we actually emailed all of our members to let them know that we were doing this open house, that we would love for them to come down. We did food, we did like a scavenger hunt, and we did a quiz and
nice.
all that stuff. And so everybody had a good time. It was family friendly. We had kids parents who came with kids as well, who used to be hostelers. We still get quite a few families that come in. Like we actually have family suites. So we get a lot of families. So it's very diverse. I mean, predominantly it's 18 to 35, right? Predominantly it's that. But we do have other people who've been hostelers for their lives, like myself,
Yeah.
When I was traveling in Europe recently, I went and stayed in hostels.
Yeah,
Right.
no, and I'm still the same way. Now, I want to back up to what I was saying. In no way, in my example, it highlighted an older woman and a younger gal, but so many of our best guests are in that 70 plus category. We've got a guy staying here in Big Bear, old man Rich, and he's 73, and he comes through on the regular, stays for a week or 10 days, and goes traveling, and all he does is play Grateful Dead every afternoon in the great room. And I always tell him, I was Rich, as long as you're playing that Dead, baby, you're going to get that discount price from me. Yeah, and all the kids love him, and he's the nicest old guy. So many of our guests, I would say we have probably a much older demographic since the pandemic and recent political issues. We've had a lot of an older demographic staying with us, and the majority of them are great. And we've had just as many problems with younger guests as well. So I think people
and we all have had at least one or two of a Colleen.
Oh yeah, no, we all have. That could be a whole other support system story. But I was
Yeah.
curious about that. After I had that incident, I was telling Bobby, I want to have a sign out front of my Big Bear spot that says, go back to the old school, check-in requirements, international passport, or club member,
Yeah.
and give me that opportunity to filter out this situation so I can protect people better from that, because we do run this social business in that with these social spaces. So if you do have someone who is in that negative energy, they can really clear out the room.
Absolutely. And I mean,
Yeah,
we have some pretty stringent like things in place, right? Like people who are actually local can't stay with us.
that's good. That's key.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
and we have that, like we have it designated by city. So like we have, because there's Vancouver, it's kind of smaller, and then we have all these suburbs, right? So, we've decided which suburbs cannot stay with us. And then the ones that are further out, then yes, they can. And so there's very strict guidelines around how that works, because I
Right.
mean, certain people are just not the right fit for shared accommodation.
And that's the key. And I always say, in closing on this topic of, never make it personal,
Nope.
because that's always going to go through. But one line was like, you're looking for ice cream at a pizza shop. We're not going to be able to give you what you want, and I'm trying to help you avoid this situation. I'll give your money back. I'll help you find somewhere that's more in tune with what you're looking for. I'm your friend here, and that's the best way to handle it. But now, lastly on that, HI USA, would that be different with their club membership, where like you had to be a member to stay in an HI USA?
I don't actually know.
I thought
No,
I remember. Yeah, I'm
I'm
thinking
not
back.
aware of that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's why
it,
I thought maybe that was the same for you.
yeah.
I've stayed in high Santa Monica, and I never needed a member to stay there.
Never
So
been.
I think
Okay,
it's the same. Yes.
same. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What was your journey, Brian? It sounds like you said you're in hostels from a little girl. What was your journey into hostels? And I'd love to hear yours, Fozzie.
So, when I was actually living in the UK, and I really was, I had moved around a lot between countries and provinces, and my parents finally settled into the UK, and I just never, school wasn't really doing it for me. And so when I was 16, I took off, and I actually, this is horrifying now, I actually hitchhiked all around Europe,
Oh
by
wow,
myself.
beautiful days
And
back
I
then.
made I know the good old days. I made friends, and so I found myself, my first hostel was actually in Amsterdam, because that's the first place you go back in those days. That was the first place you go. So, but I ended up traveling for like almost 2.5 years, and I just kind of worked my way around all the way through and around Europe, hosteling or work for stay. Um, and it's what really it changed my life. It changed like who I became. It was such an amazing experience. I because I was quite young, I met travelers who are a bit older. You, like you said, you meet people, you start traveling with them. You spend a few weeks. Oh yeah, you're going here. Yeah, I think I'll come with you. Or someone's like, oh, I know they need an extra person at this place to work for a while. And so that's really like I fell in love with it. And then, I really decided from a young, I have 4 children, and I really decided from a young age that this was something that I knew my children needed to do. And it's funny because I've been in hospitality for 30 years, but I've been primarily in like high-end resorts and hotels. And when this job came up, I was like, "Ooh, I feel like I'm going full circle."
Nice,
And this
nice.
this has been like 100% the best job of my entire career. I
Oh, great.
I absolutely I love it. I mean, it's a great organization, but I have an absolutely fabulous, fabulous team, and I've been given a lot of leeway to put things together, and because Vancouver downtown had just reopened after being closed for a few years, and so yeah, I was kind of given a carte blanche, and I ran with it, and it's been really amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. How about you, Fozzie?
Yeah, so I stayed at my first hostel when I was 22 with my roommates. I stayed at HI Charlottetown, so in Prince Edward Island in Nova Scotia.
Oh,
And I instantly loved it. I became friends with the staff right away. We hung out, like I was there for the weekend. We were hanging out the night of. So that was like, after that experience, I was like, hey, I'm definitely gonna stay at hostels now. And I moved to Japan, and the first I stayed at YHA Tokyo, which is a hostel, and it was such a cool looking hostel. It was very unique. The like, it was so beautiful because it was in Tokyo, it had a waterfall in it, and it was just like such a cool experience. So I traveled around Asia, staying at hostels, and I moved to Vancouver about 3 years ago from Nova Scotia. And I was the first guest to stay at HI Vancouver downtown after the grand opening, actually. I walked in at 9 a.m. and people were cheering for me. And I was like, whoa, okay, I love this. So, and then a week in, I was looking for work and I ran into the previous general manager and I'm like, I need a job. Here's my resume. And he's like, great. And he hired me right after. And I started as front desk agent and then got promoted to activity coordinator. And now I'm regional staff and guest engagement coordinator. So I'm just building
that's awesome.
events. Thank you. Yeah, I'm building up events all around Canada, preparing for World Cup, and it's like I did what Brianne said. This has been the best job I've ever had. Like this is my career, and I absolutely love it. And I'm like so thankful to HI Canada for what it's given to me.
That's wow. Look, two beautiful stories of that. And for listeners out there, both travelers and operators, I find that hostels are so unique like that. If you embrace it and throw yourself into it, wow, there's so many paths you can go down and so many opportunities pop up if you just let yourself be present in that moment and
Absolutely.
don't overplan it, just go with it and whoo, you know,
You could walk into a hostel and it could change your life. It literally
yes.
did to me.
And that's not going to happen at a Motel 6,
Yeah.
No.
it's just such a true thing about this, and why we all love it so much and how we got bit by it. But I feel like if we could just get more people to expose themselves to that potential experience, they would see how much there is that, you know, if you just let yourself be present in the moment, who you're going to meet, what opportunity is going to come about, where it's going to direct you. It's just amazing. Hostels can be such a beautiful thing in that way. And that's why we all continue to strive forward in what we do. But yeah, well, thank you so much for being with us. An amazing episode. HI Vancouver downtown in Jericho. I'm already looking to buy my tickets. I want to go. I want to come visit. I think I'm going to come in the summertime though, because I want to go see Alfie up in Whistler, and I'm afraid if I go snowboarding with him, he'll get me killed. So you might be seeing me coming your way this summer if I need a break off of this sailboat to get myself back on land for a little bit. But Rianne, Fozzie, my business partner Bobby Dyer in Santa Barbara. I'm here in Big Bear Lake, California. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Hostel Road Trip Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
guys.